All right, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Alex.
Today we have Jerry from Planet of the Vapes. Jerry, how are you?
I'm doing stellar. Thanks, buddy.
Love the mug. And
Thank you.
Mike from Mike's Vaporizer Reviews.
Hey Alex, how are you? Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, I'm really happy and excited to have you guys on here. This is our second one. We had Sneaky Pete on the last time and Josh from Tools 420, and we're just kind of, making our way through the vaping community. So, yeah, I mean,
sounds like fun.
It has been, Sneaky Pete got his first vape from us. I've been following Sneaky Pete since before I worked for TVape. Like, it's just really, really, and like you're called the godfather of vaporization. Like, it's really, really cool to meet people from the industry,
There's good people in it, man. It really is. And I'm stoked to be here. I've followed Mike around with his beautiful pictures on Instagram and never got to meet him. So yeah, when I jumped in here and saw Mike, I was like, no joke, I know this guy, but I don't know him. So yeah, it's a cool small community, man. I've really enjoyed, I've been in it for about 5 or 6 years, this industry, and the people are just a lot of fun. I've never seen an industry with this many fun, really interesting people.
You know what? That's exactly it. Like I feel like I spent a brief period of time in the restaurant industry, and there are some good people in that one too, but there are also some not so great people in that industry. And I feel like moving over to cannabis and especially vaporization, because everyone has the same goal in mind, which is to kind of switch people over to hurting themselves a little bit less, or it's also cost effective. There's a number of reasons to switch over. And I feel like that kind of brings people together,
Mm-hmm.
I think the cannabis world altogether is a friendly place, no matter what it is, right? So there's a lot of less fighting or negatives and positives that attract. There's no pushing back in the cannabis industry completely. I think that's why vaping, being the smaller part of the industry, but growing as we all trying to push it because it's healthier for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like Jerry said, everybody's great to talk with. Everybody's great to get along. And there's not a lot of competition from company to company. Everybody tends to lend a hand. Whether it's competition or not, everything works as a nice unity. So it's a great place to be.
Mm-hmm. And actually, while we're on the subject, like, how did you guys get into it? Mike, how did you get into vaporizers?
I got into vaporizers I'd say around 9 years ago. Having health issues, smoking the odd joint when I'd go fishing or hunting and with the boys, and then having a lot of health issues with my shoulders and migraines. The doctor said I should be looking at cannabis, and that's when I started consuming on a daily purpose, but didn't like the lung effects and everything. So that's when I said there's got to be something better, and start doing the searching and vaporizing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you, Jerry?
Yeah, I think I was getting some herb, and the guy handed me a volcano bag. This was back in late 2007, and I was hooked, man. I was like, I need that in my life. And I went out and started doing some research, and there was nothing out there but this $700 vaporizer. And so I kept doing research, and almost immediately the Extreme Q came out, except it was just called the Extreme back then, and it was $300. And I thought, I'm gonna give that a shot. So I joined FC. I bought one of those. And it's been a love affair with vaporizing ever since, obviously. So
yeah, you can tell. Well, I don't know what gave it away, but yeah, I was just always kind of obsessed with tech a little bit, and I was smoking with my friends or whatever, and I think it was even in a convenience store, the iLight, the original iLight. I don't know if you guys, yeah. So I was just like, oh, a different way to consume this. Great. Oh no, it wasn't in a convenience store. I actually bought it from TVape before TVape was TVape. We figured that out. Anyways, yeah, and I got into that, and obviously it was garbage. The iLight, I mean, but at the time it was like the coolest thing to me. And then
pretty dope.
When I started, I smoked cigarettes as well. It came from the restaurant industry. And when I switched that over to vaping nicotine, I was like, well, what's the point in switching that and then smoking 5 joints? It's not really If I'm going to switch,
Right.
I might as well switch them both.
Right.
So that's kind of how I got into it.
Right on, man. I'm glad to hear that, man. I beta tested that iLight, so I'm glad it got some use for you, man. That's awesome.
Oh, you know what? It was at the time, it was a great device, like looking back now, I'm like, things have evolved and that sort of stuff. But at the time it was like the coolest thing I had ever tried. And then I
Totally,
moved
man.
that to the
Started
extreme.
my research, there was nothing available hardly as well. So it was really hard to decide. My first vaporizer was the Vatman. Got it from Toronto Vaporizers.
Oh, you got a Vatman as your first one?
My first one was a Vatman. There's only one
That's
problem with the Vatman in Atlantic Canada. It doesn't vape very good in winter times, and winter is here a long time. So you'd be always heating and hitting that thing with the torch forever.
That's awesome.
Definitely, the experience was good, but it didn't last long. I had to look out for something else. It wasn't working for what I needed it for.
Did you ever get a station for it? The station's right here?
No, I've never gotten one.
Those things are pretty cool. I mean, it's just a hot spot to set it on, so it heats it instead, and it's still, you gotta man it. But it's pretty cool if you don't want to break out the flames. So that's cool, man.
So Jerry, every vaporizer that we talk about, you're just gonna turn around and whip it out, eh?
Yeah, until you talk. Yeah, no, I don't know, man. This one I wanted to because I haven't looked at it in a while. I really haven't picked this up in ages.
Yeah, that's the one.
The iLight, man. I remember testing this. They got this bowl in here, and they sent me different versions with different shapes, like one that had a curved bottom, one had a flat bottom. They really tried hard to get some geometries and some things cooking certain ways. A lot of effort went into it.
And you know what? It's the kind of thing where when it's the first one, at the time you're like, this is great. And obviously they paved the way for people to come after them. So, you can't really, like they were doing what they could do.
iLight was a big name back then. It was the must-have for a while.
Oh, it was big enough to catch Apple's attention. It was the iInhale at first, and they said, you ain't doing that. They had iPhone and everything, and they went iInhale, and I think they had to change it from that to iOLight.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about how you guys are consuming during quarantine here.
Right on. Mike, what you been doing, buddy?
I'll scare everybody. What happened to me is on the day I got laid off, which was when this COVID thing went all crazy, I went on a tea break. I hadn't gone on a tea break yet. Normally I go for a week. I take a tolerance break for 1 week when I go down south. This time I said I was going to go do it for 30 days. So actually, during the major part of this COVID, I wasn't consuming at all. I was growing only. So
wow.
I just started reconsuming last week. So it's been glad that I started back. Trust me.
Congratulations.
It's been a great comeback.
Good for
I can't
you.
imagine growing and holding back.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's hard. It's hard, but I stuck to it. Everybody kept saying, how do you do it? It was definitely hard for the first week. After the second week, it becomes being stubborn, basically. And then when you see that 30-day coming, it's like, I got to do it. And it's something I've always wanted to do. I've been consuming for over 9 years, like daily, like heavily enough. And I see the benefit of doing a tea break. I'm going to do it more often, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I talk to convinces me I got to do that, man.
Everything tastes so much better after, Jerry. You consume and consume. Everything tastes great. Don't get me wrong. When you vape, everything tastes great. But I think it's the aspect up here as well that it becomes ritual. So you don't, not that you don't appreciate it as much. It becomes just normal.
Yeah.
Take that break for the 30 days. You completely disconnect at 100%. It's not a week. It's 30 days. And when you start all over, it's new levels of everything. It's unbelievable.
There you go. I did not see this conversation going that way, but I appreciate it.
Surprise.
You know, it's one of those things that I should probably do, but I'm kind of like, I'll stop when I stop, but I feel like I probably should.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be able to at first. I'll admit that it's harder than just to say you're going to do it, but I like it, and I'm going to definitely redo it again. It's going to be a one time a year for sure.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. See, that makes sense. Like I mean, you talk about like you feel like you should, Alex, and at the end of the day, it's whatever you're called to. I mean, if you really feel like, it's right, and not like a guilt thing, I hope. But I don't know. I've been having a call like it's right. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what I was saying. Yeah, like it's the same way where I'm sure, I could run a little bit farther and things would taste better. I'm sure of all of these things, but I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
How about you, Jerry? How you been consuming during this?
Little differently. I mean, look, I've been working at home for ages anyhow, and I've been working in this vape industry at home for 5 to 6 years. So
Right.
a lot of this is business as usual for me.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had some more medicinal, some stronger medicinal needs come up. So I have changed some things, and it all happened at the same time as this kind of lockdown stuff came in. So the first thing I did is I've had my hybrid out forever for a while. The Volcano hybrid, when I really need when I need purposeful vapor, I go to that thing.
Right.
Consistent, it's fantastic. But the problem is, that half-gram bowl, your tolerance will go quick. So, and so will your stash. So I figured out what I started to do was the dosing capsules work. You can get about a third the size in there. But the problem is then you've got a third of what you're used to in the bag, and it just doesn't have the punch. So I did two things. One is I started to get some powder extract that I could add to instead of the goopy stuff, and this stuff works real well with it. And the other thing I do is I leave that Volcano on all day long with the filling chamber and the reducer on it all day long, so that the heat soak doesn't have to happen. And as soon as I drop that capsule in and start it, the bag is poofing right away. So that's on all the time. I've been testing plenty of vapes too. I've been beating up the Tiny Mite a little bit. I've got another one here that's coming out soon that we'll spotlight later that I'm testing. But then
Okay.
I've been hitting a lot of extract rigs, man. A lot of those. I've beaten up the Peak and the Sayonara with the Poseidon Bubbler is a really good hitter. And then the X-Max Vista Mini 2 is coming out real soon, and that one's been something I've used a lot too. So
May 15th, right?
What's that?
May 15th on the.
I think so. I
believe that's what they said.
Yeah, if that's so, then it is right around the corner, and it's something that people need to take a good look at. Great price and function and all of it. So I like it. But yeah, that's what I've been doing is a little bit of everything, man. Hitting the dispensaries about twice a week now since I can, and we've gone through a little bit more. They told me when the COVID thing first hit, they got slammed for a couple of days, and then it just really slowed down. So everybody's stocked up. And
right. No, yeah, I heard, and in Ontario, everything is through a centralized organization. So all booze and cannabis have to go through one entity. It's called the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, and then the OCS, which is Ontario Cannabis Store, I believe. But so all of it has to go through there, which is inconvenient as hell, but you can order it to your house as well, which isn't so bad. So I've just kind of been doing that. But you typically get a better price in the dispensary, but I like the convenience of ordering it to my place, especially during these times.
Yeah.
Or your own makes it even easier.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're the only one here who can say that right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and you've been staring at it for a month too, so you're ready to go,
It becomes another passion. Growing is a hobby, and it's unbelievable the relief that you get just by doing that. That's what kept me sane during those 30 days, I think.
I'll bet that makes a lot of sense. How long have you been growing?
I've been growing almost a year after I got my medical license, so I'm going on 8 years, but I did outdoor. This is my first attempt of indoor since before Christmas, so starting on my third grow indoor, and it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
I've heard it's completely different. Like my buddy grows out northern Ontario, and he basically said like outdoors, he just kind of, he's obviously exaggerating, but he was like, I just kind of threw the seeds, and then all of a sudden 6 feet high plants were there, but he said the curing process, I'm sure he's exaggerating, but he said the curing process was the most really the icing on the cake. That's where you kind of make or break it. Is that true?
Curing definitely enhances all the flavors and the potency, but I believe from the biggest thing from outdoor to indoor is controlling your environment, but you're completely growing in a completely different hostile. It's two different ball games. I thought that growing was growing it, so I've been growing outdoors and everything's been dandy until they introduced hemp in my area, and then I've been having a little bit of issues, so that's why I looked into indoor growing. But it's like starting all over. There's so many things you gotta watch and keep in hand. It kind of gets a little overwhelming at first, but I'm getting there. I think my third grow might be even more successful. I just harvested last week, and I under 1 pound, just a tad under 1 pound. So,
Oh, good for you.
Can you tell? Can you notice at all any decline in terms of when it's fresh versus, you know, how long it takes to decline in potency? Have you noticed anything, or can you tell how long it takes? Given you're there right from the beginning, you know what I mean?
I think, to me, from what I've been growing, doesn't last long enough to really say it gets old and loses potency. But I found older my stuff gets, the more potent it tends to get. I think it has to do with the curing. But that's on my end, and I don't keep, nothing lasts over 6 months.
Okay.
I'm always rotating. So as a grower, obviously, and I'm a licensed grower, so I tend to be a little bit more friendly to my friends. Like, I call them the friend plants. A lot of my grows are my friend plants. So it's, most of it is donated, and hey, try this and try that. And so nothing lasts long enough to really say for a decline. For me, that's for me.
Man, I come from the other end where we've only just gotten medicinal in my state. So historically it was, man, if you get something, you better hang on to it. So like, I'm real good at having like jars of stuff that's like, yeah, this has got months old, you know, and I'll pick up stuff and go, oh man, and I'll save stuff that's really good, like for that special time. And then I noticed one time it didn't do it for me, and I realized, you know what, I think I'm keeping this stuff too long sometimes. Like maybe it felt more potent before, and I've never grown, I've never had anything from start to finish. I don't know how that works, but I got something from the dispensary the other day that was the freshest on the date, the closest to harvest I'd ever seen, and it was amazing. So I don't know if that played into it or not.
See, it might be the curing process, and obviously I don't really know what the process was, but my buddy who grew came and delivered it to us like almost right after the harvest. And I'm like you, Jerry, I keep it for a little bit longer time, and about 6 months later, it was starting to not hit me the same. So it's got to be the curing process. Like Mike, like you're doing something good over there, it sounds like.
I don't know how you guys can hold on to stuff for 6 months. That's a no-show for here, but hey, congrats if you guys can hold on to stuff that long.
It's all about availability, man. I mean, when I've never been allowed to grow, still can't grow. As soon as they let me, I will. And then, you know, it wasn't legal until, you know, a couple of years ago here. So I got 50 years of not having availability. But
so Mike, have you been pressing that as well? I think somebody told me that.
I was lucky. Yeah, I got a rosin bud. It's a very mini press. The disc is about 1.5 inches circumference. It's good for 1 to 1.5 grams. Best result is pressing 1 gram at a time. It's not bad. It's doing the job for at least I have my own concentrates, because concentrates in my area, and I think Canada typically, is only starting to become more and more available. So yeah, availability is a big thing, and I think flower to me is the best way to consume. It's always been my favorite. I'm a flower freak, so pressing my own, just being rosin, is better to me than having all these other concentrates that come from God knows where.
Well, that sounds like the dream. You know what I mean? You're growing your own stuff, and then you're pressing it for your own extracts. Like that, I feel like any cannabis enthusiast would be happy to be in that position. You know,
the pleasure of doing it, everything is the fun part, right? It's you're consuming your own. It's a baker making his own bread and feeding his family. He's proud to do so. It's basically the same thing, but with cannabis.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't have any experience in that area, but my dad and I make gin together. So and just the feeling of making it yourself and then drinking it is phenomenal. Like
there you go.
Mm-hmm. I've never done that either, man. I got to start making stuff. I'm just a consumer, man.
As a consumer is still good.
Right on. Mike, what do you do with your pucks when you press? What do you do with that stuff? I never know what to do with that.
And collecting them.
Just stacking them up over there in the corner.
Exactly. Same thing with my my ABV. I've been collecting that for, I think it's been 3 years.
Yeah.
You should see the jars of ABV that
You got
I
a
have.
room of it, man. You got a room of it by
I
now,
have
right?
no idea what to do with it yet. I've been wanting to make stuff out of it, but it doesn't seem like can't be that good.
How far do you take it?
not
I
very
mean, do
good.
you go all the way at high temps?
No, I'm a flavor freak. My max temp is 400,
Oh,
405.
so there's definitely stuff you can do with that ABV then,
Yes.
for sure.
Positive.
I want that room.
Positive. It's still great for lots of purposes.
Well, that's like Troy talked about that on Modern Cannabis, how he has like a whole bunch of ABV, and it's like people keeping roaches around. He compared the two, and I was like, absolutely not at all. ABV is like clean. Like people keeping roaches around, that is disgusting, and I'm not afraid to tell anyone that.
Yeah, but the roach is pretty potent and the ABV is pretty weak, so I'll give him that.
Yeah, okay. I understand and sympathize. We've all been there when you run a little bit low and you're looking around for something, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think I'm scarred because my friends and I were going up to a cottage, and I was like, okay, well, I've got a bunch of weed at home. I can take care of that. And my buddy was like, no, like, don't worry about it. I got it covered. I was like, okay. So I just took my grinder full, and you can tell where this is going.
He shows up with a pile of roaches or something.
He brought a mason jar full of roaches and was like, and thought that meant he had the cannabis covered for the weekend.
And he thought he was doing you a solid, man.
Oh, it was one of the biggest disappointments in my life.
Oh, that's great. I love it, man.
I'll make sure not to get invited by that guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. And it never happened again. So then I'm there picking it all out and trying to roll up a joint for everyone. Oh, God.
Just to get to one joint. I'm just trying to get to one joint here, guys.
Oh, man. But
That's pretty funny.
With ABV, I'm like, it's a little bit cleaner. It's a little bit, you can cook with it. You can do a whole bunch of stuff with it. So I I don't know. Those are
With
two
Mike's.
different animals in my mind.
I want Mike's. You don't want mine. My ABV ain't got nothing left in it, but I want Mike's. Nothing goes out of my vape till it's all the way at the end. So
I'm the same way too.
Me, it's all about the flavors. It's that smell and that taste. It's once that's gone, it's getting dumped.
I can't vape with guys like you. I went to Champs once and hung out with the Boundless kids. They're from California, and I went over to their place, and they're packing vapes, and they're taking like 2 or 3 hits, and then they're dumping it. And I sat there and I go, I'm just sitting there watching. What the hell's going on here, man? And they pack another one and they start doing it. I'm looking at this song and going, what are you guys doing with that? I'm going, oh, that's garbage, man. I went, what are you talking about, man? Like, there's all kinds of good stuff in there. There was still some green, light tan. I was like, man, at home, I'll get a lot out of that. And they were like, no, it's just, and I spent the rest of the night looking like a loser because I went around collecting all their AP.
So you're the guy going to the ashtrays and picking everything up.
I was like, we're not wasting that stuff, man.
And then at the next party, you brought it all out in a mason jar. Said, I got it covered.
No, they took care of me. They were treating me right, so I was out of it, man. The next morning I woke up and I was like, nah, I'm going to throw that out. I don't want to. But I did. I spent the night collecting them, man. I was shocked. So, yeah, I guess, Mike, you'd hang great with the Cali kids, man.
Maybe it's because I grow my own and I don't see the price I'm paying, I guess. But even when I was buying, flavor chaser. Vaping has got me from health. Obviously, that was the choice. I went into vaping, but then it's tastes, it's flavors. It's unbelievable how complex the flavors are. And that's when you start appreciating that. When that's gone, why continue? I want a fresh bowl. I want that oomph again. I love it.
Well, and
you go through more? I'm sorry.
I'm sure I'm going through more because of that, for sure.
Okay. All right, right on.
And I totally agree. And I feel like that's a huge reason why a lot of people switch over to vaping. You're paying $15, $18 a gram, and then you're rolling it up into a joint and combusting it. Like, when you smoke a joint, to me, it all tastes the same. Like, and so I don't really understand, like maybe potency, sure, but I don't really understand why you would pour a bunch of money into it and then light it on fire. Like, and I'm a little bit, I think, too far on the vaporizing way. I became kind of a nut when I flipped over from cigarettes as well. I don't tell people their business, I'm not that
No,
good.
I tend to agree, because you'll see everybody smoking that big J and saying, oh, I can taste the blueberry in this. And I'm thinking to myself, it all tastes like combustion. I don't see where they're getting those flavors that you can actually dissect when you're vaping, because all the flavor profiles are there at 110%.
Yeah. And I totally agree. And I will, have a couple hits on the flavorful setting, and then I will bump it all the way up to 210 Celsius or whatever and finish that bowl off. But, it's everybody's got their own way of doing it. And that's another one of the great things about vaporizing. Everybody's got a little way, a little routine.
Yeah, it gives you a lot more latitude to do that kind of stuff. I mean, I think it's where you're coming from. Like, if all you did was smoke, you'd start paying attention to the nuances of smoke. You know what I mean? And maybe it might be placebo, maybe not. You might pick up on some blueberries or whatever. But I don't know anybody who's vaped who then smokes and goes, oh, I can taste it in this smoke. Usually it's guys that just smoke that say that when they come to vapor, they're like, whoa, that I can taste. I taste like herb.
Yeah.
It tastes like plants, instead of just carbon.
That's it. Like I had a buddy come with, he got some medicinal stuff from BC, and it was orange crush. And he opened it up and I smelled it, and it smelled like orange crush. And then he spun it up into a joint, and we're smoking it. And I was like, this just tastes like any other joint. Like if you put this in a vaporizer, it would taste so much better. You could actually taste that orange crush.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, man. I love it.
The vaporizer education is so hard to push by to somebody that's been smoking for 20 years. I think that's 100%. Where the vaping popularity is having a hard time. It's those hardcore smokers that's been smoking, getting their stuff at head shops for the last 30 years. And you go to the head shop, and the vaporizer are on the bottom shelf, and you ask them about it, and they have no idea what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, vapes are there, kind of thing, right? So.
Yeah, no, it's true. And then the confusion that you get with nicotine vaping as well, there's a bit of that in there. And then, the illegal THC cart stuff that came up in the last year or so. And there's a lot of confusion. And at the end of the day, you have a portable little oven that you're putting herbs into and then smoking that, or vaping that, I should say.
Yeah.
And, it's a completely different animal, and people don't, I feel like the education isn't there, like you were saying, Mike.
I'm still amazed at how many people don't know about it. Like, I mean, I've been doing this a long time. And so when I run into somebody who's never heard of it, or they go, oh yeah, I vape, and they pull out a pen, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this guy doesn't even know what I'm about to pull out of my pocket is possible. Like it's like not even occurred to them. Vaping is either oils or and like, that's why something like, I think the Dr. Dabber switch has a chance at popularity, because there's a lot of people who are smoking joints and doing dabs. They know nothing about vape and flower. Well, that's what the switch does, man. It does dabs, and it takes your herbs right to the edge or into combustion, depending on what your personal view is. So, I mean, every time I show that to a smoker, they love it. But no, I'm with you, man, on the herb. The taste is there. Can't go wrong with that.
No, flower is where it all started, right? To me, it's still the leader. I don't have anything against concentrates. Like I said, I press my own, and I'll enjoy that. But if you give me the option, flower or concentrate, I'm definitely the flower guy. Give me that flower so I can break it up. Even smell it for 5 minutes before consuming it. It's unbelievable. I really enjoy it.
I love talking to growers, man. Your perspective, I love it.
Hey, it makes you appreciate the small things. It's everything's there. It's under you, right under your nose, but you just don't take the time to just appreciate it, right? And I think when you smoke it, that's where you're just destroying it and lighting it up. Versus vaping, well, you're having that connection of you check out your nug, you smell it, because when you vape it, those first hits is what you're smelling. So you got to relate to those things. So if you smell it properly and you know you're grinding it fresh and putting it in the vaporizer, well, that first hit brings you back to that first sniff that you just inhaled. It's like, then you compare. Are we close to what I actually, am I consuming what I just broke up? That link is there. And that's when you're like, now I know why they call it blueberry of some sort or whatever, because there's so many strains out there, right? It's crazy.
I feel like when you started talking about growing, Mike, I was about this jealous. And throughout our conversation, I'm like this jealous. I might start growing tomorrow, for real.
Hey, in Canada, you're allowed 4 legally in Canada, 4 plants to grow. That's a nice little grow, and that will get you going really good.
My biggest issue is my 500 square foot apartment, but I might move some stuff around and try and figure it out.
Just put a seed in a pot and see what happens, man.
Yeah, that's it.
You know what I mean? Just get started. Dude, the next time I talk to you, you better have started growing something. You're allowed to, man. You better started doing something. I'm gonna ask you, dude. The next time we talk, you better have an answer for that.
I feel like that's the push I need. That's Jerry and Mike say I need to be growing. So you know what? In this corner of, you know what? I don't even need to do it at the. I'm gonna do it in the studio.
There you go. Perfect. I love it. I want to see that. I want to see that. I want to see that thing grow. Will be a part of your journey, man. Right there on the show.
Slowly, but I'll do and maybe even a time lapse video. That's the way to go.
There you go.
I'd tune in. That'd be dope.
Somebody should, like, if nobody's done that.
Actually, there are forums right now that on Discord that you can follow people during their 24/7 live grow and everything.
Okay, cool. That's a stream I'd tune into for sure.
Yeah, there's a nice little community as well for craft growing.
Troy just did his. He did a real good job with it.
Yeah, I harvested, and he started harvesting maybe 2 days after I did on my, because we were close when we started both our grows, the last one.
Nice.
He's got a bigger setup than me.
Do you take a bunch of pictures of your grows and anything? Or because I want to see your grows and your photography skills combined. Like, where can I find some of that?
I did put some on my Instagram. Taking pictures in a grow tent is a challenge. The lighting and the lighting from the room are not the same, and the exposure is really hard to get. I'm going to start, now that the nice weather is here, I'll be bringing the plants outside to do follow-ups. Yeah, so that way you'll get to see the plant a lot better.
Or do some nug shots in the studios, style.
Yeah, could do that.
That's what we want to see, man. We'll see those nug shots.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think I'm there yet.
Yeah. All right.
I'm happy with my stuff. I'm not saying, but I'm still a beginner at trimming, in my opinion. But some people say I'm doing a good job.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I see other nugs, and it's like, oh my god.
Man, I just want to see what you grow through your lens. That's all. I don't care about the trimming. I love your pictures, and I'd love to see your growth through your lens, man. That'd be dope.
I did put some. If you go on my Instagram, you'll definitely see some.
Cool.
They're not trimmed on the plant. They're still on the plant, but it gives you a really good idea. But I'll make sure to get some nugs pictured in and post some.
Sweet.
I'm gonna check it out for some inspiration.
That's right. And then we'll get Alex's grow pictures showing up eventually.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Now I have to do it because this is going up on the internet, and both of you gentlemen have told me to do it. So I mean. That's all.
Right, and I'll comment too. I'll comment on the thing.
Hey,
you guys in the comments. I wanted to ask Alex if he's grown yet. We got to get this guy going.
There you go. We got to push Alex to really make sure he doesn't skip this one.
That's right.
Now I have to do it. Even if it's the most garbage grow, I'm going to have to update everyone with pictures and everything.
There's never a garbage grow though, Alex. That's the great thing about cannabis. They will grow. You might not have the crazy harvest, but you will have something to consume at the end of it.
You know what? That's what my buddy said too. He was like, "It's called weed. Okay, it's gonna grow.
Right?
It's a weed." Yeah.
That's funny.
So, as long as you don't have major issues, you will have something at the end. And the major issues on outdoors, you rarely get. Indoor, you just have to make sure for heat. That's the major concern. There's too much heat during the flowering phase. They tend to re-veg again, and that can get out of hand really fast.
Okay. I will certainly be hitting you up for advice there, Mike. That
for sure.
One thing you can count on. All right, gentlemen. I think unless anybody has anything else they would like to discuss, that yeah.
Got 3 minutes. Is it? Yeah, we got 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 3 minutes left. So I would like to ask you guys, like, where can we find your stuff? What are you working on now? Let's start with you, Mike, and then swing it over to you, Jerry.
I'm pretty much only on Instagram under Mike's Vaping Adventures now. I did a little name change because I tend to make my reviews very short in a little paragraph, along with a little nice, sharp-looking picture that I put a lot of effort in. I hope people notice that I put a lot of effort in those pictures. That's where you'll find me mostly, is right there.
Okay, yeah. Well, they're phenomenal, as Jerry said earlier. You know, like you've really got an eye for photography. So, and Jerry, where can we find your?
Well, I post on Instagram regularly, StickStones420, and then Troy and Austin and I did some modern cannabis videos, and Troy and I have done some Troy and Jerry videos you can find on YouTube. Troy and Jerry Think Tank and the Modern Cannabis, they're both the channels. And then at Planet of the Vapes, I'm writing content over there, and we're working on all kinds of stuff over there, testing vapes, and we're going to be adding a lot of new products here in the next couple months that I'm excited about. We got I've been testing vapes for a while, and we got some good ones we're putting up, so I'm stoked to bring them to our market and to be able to talk about them. You know, what I like is when we put a product up, I get to talk about it, man. We put up a lot of content reviews and guides and all that, and it's just so much fun for me to dive into the vape and then explore that and write that content and do it in a way that hopefully, you know, somebody can read it and know if that vape's for them.
You know, and that's one of my favorite things to do as well when a new vaporizer comes out is just dive into it, use it for a couple of weeks, figure out what's going on with it, what makes it different, and it's something that I love doing as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Jerry. It's fun having those before the time release vapes, so you can dissect them before everybody gets their hands on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right on.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it, and yeah, all the best from Toronto.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. I appreciate it a lot. Thanks for having me, and thanks for bringing Mike and me together, man. I'm stoked to hang out with you, Mike. It's been way too long,
nice
brother.
seeing you, Jerry. I agree. Thanks, Alex, for inviting me.
Well, it's crazy that you guys wanted to get together too. It's just the way things come together. I appreciate it, and I appreciate both of you, gentlemen.
Awesome. Well, thanks, bud.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Take care, guys.
Take it easy.